But if I tell you that it didn't affect my future relationships, that would be horseshit. It had to, because I could not connect deep enough. Maybe I couldn't trust another person to be intimate physically and intimate emotionally.
I just have to give a big shout out to those that have had a podcast before. It is no joke. And one that I love and loved being part of and felt so whole after doing it is the Mental Illness Happy Hour with my dear friend, Paul Gilmartin. He's been doing it since 2011. He's truly a badass man. He brings such an honesty and a humanity when he is talking to his guests. I mean, he has on everybody you can imagine. Athlete, doctor, to name a few, we have Tiffany Haddish, Mark Maron, Neil Brennan, Rob Delaney, and Catherine Hahn, who I adore. Even the New York Times calls the Mental Illness Happy Hour a perversely safe place in which he and his guests talk about their fears, addictions, and traumatic childhoods. I mean, come on, is that not a good review? So I just want to give a shout out to him. He inspired me to start this podcast to help other people. So if you guys have a chance, please give a listen to the Mental Illness Happy Hour with my dear friend Paul. Get new episodes every Friday on iTunes, Spotify, Stitchers, or anywhere you listen to your podcasts. This episode contains discussions of molestation and trauma. Listener discretion is advised. Shh. Welcome to the Secret Life Podcast. Tell me your secret. I'll tell you mine. Sometimes you have to go through the darkness to reach the light. That's what I did. After 12 years of recovery in sex and love addiction, I finally found my soulmate, myself. Please join me in my novel, Secret Life of a Hollywood Sex and Love Addict, a 4-time bestseller on Amazon. It's a brutal, honest, raw, gnarly ride, but hilarious at the same time. Check it out now on Amazon. Welcome to Secret Life Podcast. I'm Breanne Davis-Gant. Today, I'm pulling back the curtains of all kinds of human secrets. We'll hear about what people are hiding from themselves or others. You know, those deep, dark secrets we probably want to go to our grave with. Or those lighter, funnier secrets that are just plain embarrassing. Really the how, what, when, where, and why of it all. Today, my guest is Rick. Now, Rick, I have a question for you.
Oh boy, here we go. Okay.
Dun, dun, dun. What is your secret?
I don't like Oreo cookies.
I love them. Oh, they're so good.
I wish it was as simple as that. Okay,
Yeah.
So you're the only person I'm going to ever tell this to that I'm not protected by HIPAA laws. Yeah, this is a hard one for me. And so the thing is, I was molested when I was a kid. I was molested and I was threatened. And I knew both of the guys that did it to me, and one of them was a friend. And it happened when I was about 8 or 9 years old. And there were 2 or 3 occurrences of it. And it was a guy and his older brother. And they were, the younger brother was a friend of mine, and they got me into a situation. And it was horrible. And I'm still, getting weird feelings about the whole thing because, at 9 years old, you don't know what to do. And this is my friend and this is his brother and our parents are friends, and, I was an easy target as a kid. I was a little scrawny, weak kid. And they took advantage of it,
Now, I'm just so you feel not alone. I was also molested. I don't remember anything. I blacked out. I can only remember, and I've talked about this before, like I just remember seeing the leaves and I don't remember anything else. Can you remember vividly like the first time or when it occurred?
Oh, yeah. I have a clear picture of each time when it happened. I can remember my feelings. It's so clear. I have a vision of all of it. And, I didn't know the word betrayal then, the betrayal that I was feeling. Mm. And then, feeling that I had to allow them to do this so that, they'd be my friend or they'd protect me. And then, And then I was threatened by the older brother that if I ever told anyone that, we're going to kill you. That's the phrase when you're a kid, I'm going to kill you, man. And
Yeah, but
so I
that's
was afraid of getting
scary.
killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much older was the older boy?
If I was 8, he was probably about 16. So, he was a young man, and and I was afraid of him, and the younger kid was a punk, he was a kid who beat other kids up. So, I was afraid of him too. And I wasn't a fighter, but he was my friend. He was one of my closest friends. So it makes me wonder what was going on in their family,
Oh,
you know?
God.
Yeah. And their dad was a cop. And so it's like,
Oh,
what was going on in that family for the older brother to get the younger brother involved and to go after another kid? It's like, I didn't think about that part of it until years later and after tons of therapy and everything, but it's like, whoa, what was happening in that family?
I mean, they say it's a learned behavior normally
Absolutely.
it's a
Absolutely.
generational thing that occurs.
Oh yeah, the stuff, I mean, the things that they were doing, and it's like you don't know that when you're 8 years old, and you're somebody has taught you that stuff, you know? It was weird. It was weird. And the shame I felt, I felt like I had done bad, you know?
Did you always wonder, like, did I give them the wrong impression even at 8 years old? Like, did I do something? Was this my fault? Did you have those feelings?
I felt that maybe it was my fault, but I never thought, did I give them any kind of signal or sign? But yeah, I carried the guilt of it, like it was my fault, and that I almost felt like a perpetrator, you know,
Really?
because
Why?
I'd felt like I had done something so wrong. I had done something so wrong. And so the fear came from the fact that I told one person, and he promised not to say anything, and it was a mutual friend of the younger brother, and I told this kid, and he would constantly bring it up on the school bus, and he's like, so tell me about when that thing happened. So, and the other kids sitting 3 or 4 rows behind us. And my fear was that it was going to get out, that all the kids would know, and that I would be blamed for it for whatever reason. And then I was also going to get my ass kicked.
So let me get this straight. When was this school bus ride? Was this right after it occurred, or was it a year later? Or
It was months later because the 3 events took place in the summertime. And
okay,
I don't know. So maybe it was between fourth and fifth grade. Maybe it was between fifth and sixth grade. I don't remember. But I remember vividly where it occurred and where it happened. And, so it was within 6 months. But the kid who I told, I don't think he ever told anybody, but he would bring it up all the time. And so
wow.
there was this constant fear that my secret was going to get out, and I really felt like I had done wrong. I felt like I was, the guilty party here, not the victim. It was weird. It messed me up bad.
Yeah, it was like you were hiding this shame of something happening to you and making it your fault in
Right,
your head.
totally. And I was hiding their guilt. I was protecting the guys who abused me, and that was weird.
Now, did you stay friends with them afterwards, or did you move, or did something? How did you get through this period of of your life? Because right now I can just feel that kid on the school bus so terrified and shameful.
Yeah. Fortunately, we did move about a year later. And the weird thing was, my parents stayed in contact with the parents of those 2 boys. And they actually came to our house and visited us. Like we moved across the country.
Oh
And
my
that family,
God.
they were friends with
No.
my family. And so, a couple years later, those 2 boys showed up in my house, after I was free. I was free of the whole thing. I was like, oh my God, that's behind me. No one ever found out. Thank God. And there they are. And I'm supposed to pretend to be nice to them while keeping their secret, it really messed me up. And, still to this day, I mean, that was, decades and decades ago. And I still have weird feelings about the whole thing. It still freaks me out.
Was that the last time you saw them when they came and visited that one time?
I think I saw them one other time. I was in my 30s. We went back east. I probably for somebody's funeral or something. I don't know, but I did see those two guys, and I just gave them a funny look because now I was a grown man, and I could defend myself, and they knew, and I knew it when I saw them. Oh man, just the feelings, that fear, the shame, the guilt, all of it just came right back, and there I was at least 32, 30, 33, 4, whatever. But it all came back. It was so fresh. And it was like, no, I'm a grown up man. They did wrong. I didn't do wrong. They did wrong. And I'm not going to let the secret out because I didn't want to go through the mess of the whole thing. But it's like, dudes, I'm on to you, man. I am on to you. And, again, it takes me back to what the hell was going on in that family.
And I keep thinking of like, I wonder if it was happening to somebody else after you, or does that behavior just stop when it's like younger? It's just the whole situation just seems so, ugh, there's like no words for it for me.
I couldn't have been the only one. I could not have been the only one. I mean, they had a standing in our community, and their father and my father, they were guys who got things done, and their father was a cop, and they were both these boys were star athletes. I wasn't a great athlete because I had a dad who didn't participate in my upbringing. Oh my God, my dad, if my dad was ever going to throw a baseball to me, he would have been throwing it at me. But my dad was just too busy, doing what he did, which was not always really good stuff.
And did you ever tell your parents?
No. My dad was the type of guy that if I went to him with a problem, he would call me weak. Or if I got in a fight and I came home and I got beat up, he would laugh at me and call me weak. And it's like, well, then teach me how to fight, but he never did. He was not a supportive person. My dad was also an abuser. I was physically and verbally abused by my dad.
That must have been so hard.
Yeah, so I couldn't have gone to my parents for support, and they probably would have sided with the family on the other side. It's like, oh no, Rick, that didn't happen. That couldn't have happened. I don't know, but I didn't have much nurturing when I was growing up. I was very much left to develop on my own, and it was good and bad because I got to experience things that a lot of kids never got to do, and I had freedoms that other kids did not have. And it led me down some dark paths, but fortunately I saw the light and got through those paths. But no, there was not. We didn't have a strong family bond there in my house.
Well, I always liked in these situations to connect the 7 deadly sins, and not in the religious sense, but more in the character defect. Where do you think holding this secret has affected your life? I'm going to read them to you if you need me to say them again, but there's pride, greed, lust, gluttony, envy, anger, and sloth.
Ooh, anger and sloth for sure. Anger and sloth for sure. Oh boy, yeah, because the anger I carried against those two guys for so many years, the anger and the fear, I know it ate a hole in me, and I knew nothing about forgiveness back then. I knew nothing about, moving on, accepting a situation. It wasn't until many, many years later that I learned all that stuff. So I carried that anger and fear for a long, long time.
Do you think it affected your other relationships in your life too?
Ah, wow. I honestly can't. I don't know. I don't. I didn't have conventional relationships in my life, so it could have because I was I was
That's like a whole
basically,
other secret right there.
yeah, let's not go into that one. No, I was a bachelor, like hardcore bachelor until I was 40 years old. Like I could not commit to a relationship. Now, is it connected to those three events that happened when I was 8 years old? I don't know. Is it possible? Yeah, that's for damn sure. Um, I the longest relationship I ever had before I got married was just under 2 years, and I never had a girlfriend in high school. That does not mean that I did not date, because I was I was a dater, and so I was kind of a scumbag, but I couldn't be in a relationship.
Do you think it made you become a scumbag? Because like I've done some gnarly things in my time. And I also know like hurt people, even if we're unaware of it. But I do also, from my experience in therapy, when something traumatic happens that to you at a young age, it stunts your growth. And I'm just wondering if for you, maybe that's all connected too.
It's gotta be. I mean, I'd be naive if I said no, that's not possible. It's gotta be. I've not gone that deep in this situation in therapy. It's been discussed time and time again in therapy, but we've never gone super, super deep into it. But if I'm going to tell you that it didn't affect my future relationships, that would be horseshit. It would. It had to, because I was just the single guy all the time. I was the single guy who dated girls. And that's all I did. I could not connect deep enough. Maybe it was a lack of trust. Maybe I couldn't trust another person to be intimate physically and intimate emotionally.
Yeah.
I could do the physical part, no problem. No
Well, I
problem.
could usually do one or the other. Like I could do the physical or I can do the emotional. I didn't know how to, with all my trauma, connect the two.
Yeah.
That was my thing. So that's why. And you also said sloth. Why? I really want to know why you said sloth.
Well, because I remember, in the year after it happened, I really just kind of checked out. And I was so traumatized by those three events that I I didn't participate in a lot of things. I really went inward, and I was a very extroverted kid. I was super hyper. I was also really intelligent, and so I would finish all my homework or all my classwork, you know, really fast, and then it gave me time to screw off and entertain people and be a class clown. But after that event, those three events, um, I changed and I shut down, and I would spend hours in my bedroom. I remember laying on my back sideways on the bed with my legs up on the wall, right? Just staring at the ceiling, staring at my feet, and wondering, why did this happen to me?
Wow.
What
See,
did I do wrong that this happened to me?
here's my question for you. And as a mother to a son, when I thought I was going to have a daughter, I was always in fear of like that happening to my daughter because a lot of women talk 1 in 3 girls are molested or sexually assaulted, but
Wow.
they don't talk about it with boys. And I have a son. So now talking to you, this thing of like, did your parents ask you, like, are you okay? I mean, as a mother, what would you have wanted your parents to do to help you?
Exactly that. Are you okay? What's going on? But this was the 70s. It was the
Yeah.
early 70s. And you know, my parents were doing their thing, man. We didn't talk about mental health back then. It's
No,
like
they just started
I
talking
was
about mental health. They didn't in the 80s and the
right.
90s either.
Yeah. And my parents were just like, oh, he's just a weird kid, and that was it. No,
So would
but
you
I
say if like any parents are listening, if there's a dramatic change in your child's behavior, that to like notice that would that the advice you would give to parents?
God, absolutely, please, please, please find a safe way to ask your child what's going on. I'm not a parent, so I can't give parental advice. But, I was a kid. I was a screwed up kid, man. And if someone had come to me and said, "Hey, are you okay?" if I felt safe with that person, I would have opened up,
Mm.
you know, and I was longing for that. It's funny. I went through a health scare last year, and it was pretty dark for a while. And, I was looking at my own mortality, and all I wanted was someone to come and sit on my bed and just say, "Are you all right? Are
Mm.
you all right?" And I didn't have that, and I can relate that back to my childhood. It was like, wow, here we are in that same place, in that exact same place, and just wanting someone to reach out. But as an adult, knowing that I can ask for help, that's my job.
Right.
I need to let people know how I'm feeling. I've got to tell them, "Hey, I'm not doing so good here." I have a responsibility as an adult to let someone know that I'm not feeling good. But as a kid, you know, you don't know that. You don't know that. I
Yeah.
should have gone to somebody and said, "Hey, guess what those guys did to me?" You
I
know?
know, but you're a child. You don't know. Your brain cannot even compute what's happening. I did tell my son, and we have been telling our son, when taking a bath, like, no one's allowed to touch this part of you. Only you are. We try to like already start talking to him about like, this is your private part. Um, I don't know why I'm
What special
talking.
purpose?
Yeah, like I that's like what I try to instill in my son. But I do want to go back to you keeping the secret for all these years. Who do you think it benefited and who do you think it harmed?
By me keeping the secret, it definitely benefited them. They were in the clear. They got away with it.
Right.
It hurt me. I covered for them. They did bad to me, and I covered for them out of fear.
Right. Do you think it also benefited your parents because they didn't have to deal with the reality? Like you covered that for them too?
Oh, absolutely. But my parents probably would have just blown it off. I mean, I don't know.
You
I
don't
could be
know that
wrong, but
though. You could be wrong.
I could be. All right. Okay. Easy. Um, but I don't see that there would have been any good that would have come out of it if I had gone to my parents. Certainly not my dad. I mean, forget that. That would have never happened. But, you know, I don't think my mom was well enough equipped to handle some sort of trauma like that. I don't know. I could be wrong. It's all hypothetical, I guess, at this point.
Well, and here's my last question for you. How are you moving forward in the future to protect yourself from this trauma?
From this trauma, I have, like I said, I've done a lot of therapy on it. And I know that there are bad people in the world that do bad things. And when that happens, okay, so first, it's my job to protect myself, but it's my job to let people know when they've crossed my boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
That's my responsibility. If I'm uncomfortable by something you've done, I need to let you know so that you don't do it again. Now, if you do it again, it's on you, man. And there's going to be a consequence. Not saying I'm going to knock the crap out of somebody, but no, there is going to be a consequence because I brought this up once before.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, once you set your boundaries and you make them, this is my boundary, do not cross it, and saying something, an action, anything, if that person does it again, they're usually gone. Like, I don't have time for someone that doesn't respect me and my boundaries.
Yeah. And don't make a threat that you're not willing to back up. If it's, I'm going to cut you out of my life if you do it again, well, you better be damn well ready to cut that person out of your life,
Oh, yeah, I agree.
you
Or the
know,
cycle is just going to keep happening.
and get even worse.
And then I do want to ask you one more question. What advice would you give someone that's still keeping this secret, that hasn't talked to a therapist or done work on themselves like you have?
I would say, well, if you're not into therapy, I can't push people into therapy, but I got to say, therapy has been life changing for me, and to have a safe place where I can just tell someone how I feel has been one of the best things I've ever discovered.
Oh,
Getting the feelings out and knowing that I'm not bad for having these feelings.
Yeah.
It's like we as human beings have really screwed up feelings, right? And then we're afraid to talk about it because we don't want to be judged. Well, they'll think I'm crazy or, whatever. Therapy is a place to get that out. So, but if you don't have a therapist, find one person that you really, really trust and just, let it out. Just like, I've been carrying something for so long, and you don't even have to attach the emotion to it anymore. You just say, I have been carrying something for so long and I don't want to carry it anymore. Can I unload it on you? Can I just dump this right now? And, and dump it on him and move forward.
Yeah, because I always said, and I wanted to hit the therapy thing, I never thought I deserved therapy. Like it was too expensive or it was like too selfish or self-involved.
Yeah.
And once I start, right, you're like, it's like getting a massage or a facial. You're like, oh, I don't deserve that. It's too expensive. That hour is like 100, whatever, especially if you don't have good insurance. But then as soon as I started going, it felt like a massage for my soul. And it was that 1 hour in the week where I could say whatever I wanted and there was no consequences and someone to just listen and help you with it.
Yeah. It's not a luxury.
Yeah, but it feels like it. I mean, other people out there has to agree with me. It feels like when you don't grow up in a family of self-help, it feels like a luxury, but it shouldn't be.
Right. I know. And I do. Sometimes I still feel the same way about a massage. It's like, I know that the massage is good for me, but, I feel like I'm pampering myself. Oh, I shouldn't do this. Oh, no, bullshit.
Yeah.
I call it. Yeah.
So go to therapy.
Go to therapy, man. You can go to therapy and say, okay, today I hate my spouse. I probably won't hate them tomorrow, but right now I really hate my spouse. And then you just dump it and leave it right there. And you go back home and you give your spouse a kiss and a hug.
Exactly.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your secret and being so open and vulnerable.
Okay, but don't tell anybody, okay?
Okay, I won't. It will be our secret.
Perfect.
If you want to be on the show, please email me at secretlifepodcast@icloud.com. Until next time. Thanks again for listening to the show. Please subscribe, rate, share, or send me a note at secretlifepodcast.com. And if you like to check out my book, head over to secretlifenovel.com or Amazon to pick up a copy for yourself or someone you love. Thanks again. See you soon.